that was covering. Why is that not coming up? Oh, dang. I had a video covering the downfall of Conor McGregor, and I hadn't checked it out in a while. But I did also have a really fun one here that I wanted to talk about that's pretty funny. So if you guys aren't familiar with Jack Dorsey, he was the founder of Twitter, and he's been a big Bitcoiner for quite some time. He's always wearing that Satoshi t-shirt. And there is basically a conspiracy theory that Jack Dorsey is Satoshi Nakamoto. And I have there's a whole essentially article or thread on Twitter here from Sean Murray covering it at FinanceGuy74. And so I wanted to go through it with you guys because it's pretty funny. So it says that Jack Dorsey was one of 1,300 confirmed cypherpunks in 1996, and this was verified by his UMR email. He also wore an Atom Back t-shirt in the UMR yearbook, so he was in the yearbook as well. And the UMR students were called miners. He was a computer science and math major with an interest in crypto. He was also a member of ACM from 1997 to at least 1999. So let's go ahead and I'm not familiar with ACM. So what is ACM? Let's see. So, okay, Association for Computing Machinery. Interesting. Okay. So he was a member of that as well. And then it says he created an academic research paper submission and review software for Mira Digital Publishing. He was known to use OpenBSD, Windows, Mac, and Linux. That sounds like every person interested in computer science ever to me. And he has been confirmed to code in C, Python, Java, Perl, PHP, Camel, O and Joe, Lisp, and more. So there you go. I think like so the only thing so far that I think is maybe somewhat could be Satoshi would be his being confirmed cypherpunk, right? Now there were a ton of different cypherpunks throughout the 90s that were very into cryptography and kind of shared these same ideals surrounding, what we saw eventually in the Bitcoin white paper. So it does say he's still on the cypherpunk mailing list, at least in 2000, under his dnet.com email. He wrote a manifesto about making a mark without leaving a trace in 2001. That's pretty suspicious. And he was a subscriber to cryptome.org in 2001. He made a blog post where he jokingly says he is working on a network for drug traffickers, which obviously we ended up seeing with things like Silk Road. And that is what, came out came of Bitcoin early on, was basically drugs. He posted a bio in 2003 that says he is into crypto, pseudonyms, 4 a.m. hacks, and more. He posted in 2003 that he is sending his dependence on the US dollar, or ending his dependence on the US dollar, and creating a barter network. He referred to himself as Jack with a K instead of Jack with a CK. Jack was his pseudonym. Jack, who was a sailor, tweeted on 8/17/08, "Around the Horn and home again, for that's the sailor's way." Bitcoin.org was registered the next day. Jack's Twitter profile from September of 07 to January of 09 said he was a sailor. So they're basically saying because he called himself a sailor, it's somehow related to Satoshi Nakamoto, because the original Bitcoin source code included an old sailor's adage that said, quote, "Never go to sea with 2 chronometers. Take 1 or 3. The original Bitcoin source code documents are all timestamped as being created at exactly 4 a.m., just like Jack's bio. For those of you on that previous quote that don't understand that, if you take 1, you can only follow one. If you take 2, you can follow 2 and you don't know which one's broken. If you take 3, then you can basically figure out which of the 2 are saying the same things and follow that one. The original Bitcoin source code documents contain a brute force example vanity Bitcoin address that starts with NS17, Nakamoto Satoshi 17. The documents were created on 1709. Satoshi accidentally logged into IRC on 11009 using a real IP, revealing he was in California, where Jack was. The first Bitcoin transaction took place on Jack's mom's birthday, 11109. There you go. Angels in the room, I suppose, right? Satoshi joined the Bitcoin forum on Jack's birthday, 1119, and Satoshi's last mined block was on Jack's dad's birthday, 5310. Satoshi told Hal in an email about vanity Bitcoin addresses and showed him a second one beginning with an S. Jack sends Bitcoin to 4 addresses after Hal, including one that has JD2M in the middle. Jack lived at 2 Mint Plaza in San Francisco. Jack Dorsey, 2 Mint, JD2M. I always think like JDM, like the cars, when I see those 3 letters together. Satoshi tells Marty Malmy that he is really busy with work. Jack was busy launching his next startup, Square, now Block. Satoshi tells people on the forum not to donate Bitcoins to WikiLeaks on 12/5/10. And then Twitter is hit with a secret court order with a gag requirement to turn over everything it is about WikiLeaks on 12/14/10. Satoshi stopped logging into the forum on 12/13/10 and never returned. Jack is made executive chairman of Twitter while remaining CEO of Square on 3/28/2011, and he tweets that he is very busy with both. Satoshi sends his last email on 4/23/2011. Twitter's tech lead suggests that Twitter might integrate Bitcoin payments on 5/23/2011. Jack Dorsey calls Bitcoin an amazing movement in September 2012 and said that Square would accept it if it became a huge success. Jack's best friend, Alyssa Milano, writes a novel, Hacktivist, in the summer of 2013 about Jack, in which she places him as living a double life behind a famous pseudonym. Square announces Bitcoin acceptance on 3/31/14. Satoshi's GMX email is hacked on 9/8/14, and the hacker attempts to extort Satoshi by sharing that he knows about his connection to St. Louis, Missouri. Jack is from St. Louis. Alyssa Milano writes a second novel about Jack. In this one, Jack's famous pseudonym is hijacked and his software developed in a way that was not intended. The hijacker has a logo that looks almost exactly like Gavin Anderson's Bitcoin faucet logo. It was released in installments, with the first one going out on 7/29/2015. 2 weeks later, on 8/15/2015, Satoshi reappears on the Bitcoin mailing list to address the Bitcoin block size debates. People are shocked about Satoshi's return, and some doubt it is really him, but could not disprove it. On 10/15/2015, Jack is made permanent CEO of Twitter, officially making him CEO of 2 companies. The last installment of Milano's novel about Jack is published, in which it ends by him returning as head to his social network. Square publishes a children's book in 2018 of January to explain the legend of Satoshi Nakamoto, in which it makes its Satoshi character look like Jack. On 4/20/20, Lex Friedman asks Jack if he is Satoshi, to which Jack tells him that he wouldn't admit it even if he was. This is in contrast to Nick Szabo, Adam Back, and Hal Finney all saying explicitly that they were not Satoshi. Now, a lot of people have thought it was Hal Finney, by the way, in the past, if you're not aware of that. He was a pretty, is a pretty famous cypherpunk. 145 very old Bitcoin addresses signed a message stating that Craig Wright was not Satoshi and that he was a liar and a fraud. The oldest Bitcoin address that signed the message started with one Jack, Jack's old pseudonym, and the oldest that signed it contained high SQ in the middle. SQ is the ticker for his company Square. In February of 2022, Jack starts wearing a Satoshi shirt, first on a Michael Saylor podcast and then at the Super Bowl. On 10/27/23, Jack said at a conference that, quote, Bitcoin and Satoshi in 2009 was a combination of my childhood and my curiosity and everything that I aspired to be and everything that I loved. Craig Wright's attorneys argue in early 2024 that if Craig Wright was not Satoshi, quote, then the real Satoshi would have been expected to come forward to counter the claim, end quote. It did not dawn on them that the person countering the claim was Jack Dorsey, who was the basis for the Copa v. Wright legal challenge to begin with. Jack Dorsey came forward to counter the claim. Jack wrote on Nostr, quote, I frequently imagine Satoshi sitting back somewhere and laughing at it all, end quote. On 8/28/2024, Jack went on Nostr and then thanked Hal Finney, now deceased, for his help. Jack parades himself around in a Satoshi shirt. The belief that Satoshi never wanted to be found is something that other people invented about Satoshi. Satoshi chose pseudonymity, not anonymity, as Jack also pointed out in a podcast with Lex Friedman. The reason why Jack wouldn't do all of the above while not directly admitting it is because Satoshi and Bitcoin are his art, and it's his masterpiece. At Jack. So I thought this was really interesting. I think this is the best argument for who Satoshi is that I've seen in quite some time. Obviously, there have been some pretty convincing ones in the past as well. I'd like to hear y'all's thoughts and opinions on it. It would make a lot of sense if it was him. A couple of things that make me doubt it, of course, was his allowance of the interference of the United States government into the dealings of Twitter, especially post leaks of the Twitter files. And I feel like anybody that was Satoshi would have tried to fight against that. Of course, maybe he just didn't feel like he really had the control over it to do it. I know that he's been pretty vocal about being expressing, I guess, pleasure or satisfaction with what Elon has turned Twitter, or now X, into. And so, you could counter the claim from there. But there you go. I hope you enjoyed this clip from the Crypto Mining Show. If you would like to see more from this particular episode, take a look up here. Don't forget to also subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support me directly, you can go to sonofatech.locals.com and become a member. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next Tuesday.